What's going on? This is 89 the Brainchild, and you are listening to Cabbages, a hip hop podcast.
I'm thrilled to introduce our Jeff. What the fuck? Shut your fucking mouth.
420, baby. It's 420. It's a holiday.
Unprofessional, man. Trying to introduce the show. Jesus Christ.
Nailed it. I nailed it. Pardon me.
Hello and welcome to the Cabbages Hip Hop Podcast. I'm your host, Gary Suarez. I'm a music journalist and critic, and I write a twice-weekly hip-hop newsletter called Cabbages, which you can subscribe to for free at cabbageshiphop.com. Joining as always is my very rude co-host, music industry insider Jeffrey Laughlin.
Hello.
And we couldn't let 420 go by uncelebrated, so we're taking a smoke break from this season's bad movie battle to bring you a bonus episode. And today, we'll be talking about UHF, the 1989 Weird Al Yankovic comedy that Roger Ebert himself called, quote, a depressing slog through recycled comic formulas. And I'm thrilled to introduce our guest for today's show. Joining us now is 89 the Brainchild. You may have heard the New Jersey rapper featured on Horror's Turf Talk Volume 1 or on his own projects such as Not Who I Thought I Was, The Last of My Rage, Patterns, and Mini Tape 5, which you can find on Bandcamp. You can catch him every other Saturday from 12 p.m. to 2 p.m. Eastern, hosting Strangers Live alongside friend of the pod, Fatboy Sharif, on newtownradio.com. Hello and welcome to the show.
Oh, man, thank you for having me, and I definitely appreciate that whole rundown. It makes me feel like I'm doing something.
You are doing things.
You are doing
things. Yeah, you're doing a podcast.
Oh, yeah, absolutely. But sometimes, like, you tell like your family that you're doing certain things, like, yeah. But then when they hear other people talk about what you're doing, Like you could say, oh yeah, I'm doing this with my life. Your parents like, oh, that's interesting, and I really have an idea. But then when your aunt or your uncle like tell your parents about what you're doing and they're impressed, that's kind of the feel. So,
I'm waiting for that to happen in my life. It's still not happening yet.
Yeah, no one's asking you to be on anybody's show, that's for sure.
Oh, first of all, we are both Newtown folk.
That's true.
I have a Newtown show as well.
oh yeah, really?
Pathways on Mondays.
All right.
It's a peaceful jazz, ambient, neoclassical show.
I love it. What time are you on?
5 to 7 on Mondays. It's like alternating Mondays.
Shit, I might stop too if I'm off work. Hell yeah.
Please do. I would love that.
We can make it happen.
I just can't believe it's taken this long for Jeff to finally plug his show on this show. Like, you've been doing this show for a minute. I never
advertise anything about my life on the show.
I have to pull teeth to get you to talk about shit. That's why no one wants you on things. No one thinks you do anything other than this fucking show.
And it's awesome that way. Nobody expects anything. There's like, whoa, Jeff showed up. Of course I did. I work here.
You're just
You're
proud.
so humble.
You're so proud of his low expectations.
Yes. More low expectations in the world, please.
Well, I came into UHF with some fairly low expectations.
I did too.
I'll just point that out right from the back. 89, had you seen this movie at all? Or were you aware of it before we assigned this to you?
I was aware of the film. I never quite knew the name, but I was a Weird Al fan. I remember watching his Behind the Music on VH1, and I watched his live. He would do concerts. MTV, VH1, they would air full blown concerts of artists. So I remember I watched him do live shows. So I was aware of his backstory and his history and the way he kind of broke in, but I had never seen the film. I just seen clips of it when they talked about it in passing. Because everything he did musically kind of holds way more status than what this film is.
The album for this, I feel did better than the movie.
The movie did,
and it wasn't close. People were way more into Dare to Be Stupid on a an audio level than they were to see it in the film. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
To Be Stupid, to this day, you'll see clips of the Devo. When they're talking about the record, when they're talking about Weird Al, and they're talking about the impact of that record, and people circulate that shit to this day.
The Mark Mothersbaugh was so happy and so angry at the same time.
Yes,
it was amazing.
Yes,
I love that interview. I'm a huge Devo guy too, and I'm actually wearing a Devo t-shirt right now.
I,
And
just to be revisited, like the fact that it's
yes,
revisited this year, they revisit that clip. And
yeah,
I haven't heard about UHF the movie since I watched the Behind the Music, like when I was a child. So like this is the first time anyone's mentioned UHF to me since then. So that goes to show like how much that came and went in
Yeah.
comparison to his
you can
music.
tell it's a guilty pleasure because when you bring it up and you like kind of act positively toward it, a bunch of people will sort of come out of the woodwork and be like, I love that movie. But like if you don't mention it, everyone will stay silent on that matter and be like, oh, I've never seen UHF. I don't want to talk about it.
I mean, I definitely saw it when I was a kid. Like I was a huge Weird Al fan. Like we're talking about the late 80s. By that point, I had so many Weird Al cassettes. It was all cassettes. So I had Dare to Be Stupid. I had Even Worse. You know, those were tapes that I played almost nonstop surely to the annoyance of my parents. As an adult, my tolerance for musical comedy is like brutally low. Like I can't actually listen to it because it fucking drives me insane. But like I was such a huge fan. And then when UHF came out, I definitely got the soundtrack before I saw the movie. I don't think I got to see the movie in the theaters because I don't think my parents were willing to take me to it. I think they were like, you've got enough Weird Al in you. We'd like you to be a normal child now.
That didn't work out.
No, it didn't work out at all. It only made it work.
Sorry, you just found UHF later and it still had the same effect.
I still got to see it. And that was like, as I watched this movie, I realized how much of that cassette tape, again on cassette, had stuck with me. When he daydreams the Dire Straits Money for Nothing Beverly Hillbillies.
Yes, I do remember that joint.
Which was, you know, basically the actual music video in full. Like they aired that music video on MTV.
Yes.
The whole 3D effect.
Yeah, that was a song I sat there on the couch watching it last week, and I just started singing all the lyrics.
But he has that way, though. I mean, like, just because it's parody. And I call it parody, not satire. I feel like that's important to note for the film as well.
Sure.
Yeah.
This isn't biting, sarcastic criticism of what they're doing. They're doing this because, you know, the movies and the sounds that they're emulating, they like a lot. And making fun of something, I mean, you know, flattery, et cetera, et cetera.
Yeah, it doesn't feel like poking holes in what the original piece is.
Right. And most of it is coming at the expense of the main character, George. But he has that quality to him where like whatever he does, and this goes throughout his whole career, is super memorable. Even if he's a bit player in it, you know, like, oh yeah, Weird Al was in that.
Well, he also became, you know, sort of ubiquitous over time and became this like such as pop culture figure that he could, you know, touch all these different genres, including polka, in his work, and like be viewed as someone worth paying attention to. And like, you know, I've listened to interviews with him.
But also has had a wild film and TV career.
Yeah. And, you know, like a lot of, because he's also was a product of that MTV generation. Like
totally,
he gave them content. He made music videos. And interestingly enough, the director of this film, Jay Levy, you know, was somebody who had directed or produced countless Weird Al music videos, basically starting in like 1983 and continued to work with Weird Al, at least in that capacity, well into the 2010s. So decades
it felt
of work
like a
together.
music video, like this was shot like a music video. When a scene was over, it was over. It's smash cut, next scene.
Felt like some of the film, it felt like it was disjointed and it turned into like vignettes or kind of like skits or sketches of some sort. And some like it interfered a little bit with the narrative of like the difficulty that comes with running a TV station. It was like, all right, here's just this bit. All right, here's this show, and we're gonna move away from like whatever George's conflict is, where it's like, old girl that he dating, kind of just, it's like, oh, you're dealing with the show and you missed the date. Fuck this, everything is over, and now like George is just gone through it, and he has to give up his TV show on top. It was like, damn, man, like they like I felt like we just skipped a whole bunch of conflict or a whole bunch of difficulties, like just for the sake of kind of like just getting these sketches out.
Exactly, it was like a portraiture of highs and lows, and that's it.
Yeah,
There's a couple of reasons behind that. Part of it is you're dealing with a music video director
Right.
making a full-length film, and he's one of the writers on it alongside Weird Al. It fits in sort of a weird in-between space of genres at the time. So think about movies like the anthology comedies, like your Kentucky Fried Movie of kind of the 1980s, those sorts of films. Exactly, those are things. But then you also had these, they were also taking things like Michael Jackson's Moonwalker, the movie, the actual movie.
When you have brought up the video for the Hillbilly joint, it automatically made me think of there was this claymation video for Michael Jackson. I think that was part of the Moonwalker, like the video package and shit, where it was like claymation. He was like a rabbit riding a motorcycle.
Yes.
And automatically I just thought about that video. So just to see that era, like it definitely there's an aesthetic, there's a whole kind of feel of what was deemed as like cutting edge in terms of special effects, practical effects, that I felt like I think Weird Al was definitely on the cusp of that.
That was also used as the Speed Demon video, the rabbit one, the claymation thing that was in Moonwalker. And like, so there's like, I remember being a kid and obviously being a Michael Jackson fan as a kid and watching this movie. I rented this movie in 1988. So it's only like the year before this one comes out. You know, so like I feel like they had established that you didn't necessarily need to, for a musical artist or someone who's primarily known as a musical artist, you didn't necessarily need to make a thing that was like a coherent narrative and plot so much as you could just kind of string together some loosely connected scenes. And it worked well for, you know, like Moonwalker made like 60 something $million.
The movie's caught between a music video style shoot and then like the plot and dialogue were, you know, very Airplane.
When you watch a film like this and you start this film and it's an extended Indiana Jones parody, the tone is set. The tone is set by those openings. You see that intro and you're like, this is the movie I'm watching. Got it.
Like to me, I got like Spaceballs and like Pee-wee's Big Adventure type shit.
So it's, you know, this like sort of world, it's a weird, is it real world? You know what I mean? Like, is this real or is this like a cartoon? And the answer is kind of both, because, and the way they pull it off, which I think is really cool. So we talked about this, like during the movie, we like to text a lot. And I was like, the first thing I said was, this is a lot like the short story, J. Walter Mitty, The Imagination of J. Walter Mitty, which is a really old short story from like this New Yorker writer, or this, anyway, sorry, I'm babbling, but it was that, and it was the Zuckers, like Airplane, Naked Gun. I made both of those references right away. And then I read the Wikipedia and they were like, two of our biggest things were J. Walter Mitty and Airplane by the Zucker brothers. And I was like, well, there you go. I know that like this is a movie directly in my wheelhouse. I had a blast watching this movie.
I was impressed by how much of it I enjoyed. And I think, look, there's a lot of danger when we watch movies, comedies from the 80s, especially. Like there's going to be some cringeworthy stuff. And there's a little bit of that in here for sure. You know, particularly the stuff with Getty Watanabe as Cooney, you know, but again, you know, this is only a few years after, you know, what him playing Long Duck Dong, who's like one of the most, you know, talked about characters in terms of the problem with, you know, Asian representation in Hollywood. And like it's just something where you have to kind of let it wash over you while acknowledging the thing. And this is a movie that made, because of its absurdist approach of how it was this fantastical idea of what it was supposed to be. And mind you, I was really fucking high when we watched this, like really fucking high. I found myself just enjoying the cheap laughs and some of the things I thought were really clever. Like, you know, they live underneath a karate studio. And when he's like, what time is it? A hand comes through the wall from the karate studio with a wristwatch. And he looks at this wristwatch and he goes, 7:30. So like it's
Weird Al, like, I'm sorry, George never really grasps what time it is in this thing. There's like 3 different scenes where he's like, "Oh my God, what time is it?" And you're like, 9:30. You missed dinner with the love of your life, and she's going to leave you.
A lot of this movie is about just not having time for a relationship.
Right. It really is.
It's weird because if it wasn't Weird Al Yankovic, and I'd love to know your thoughts on this, not you, Jeff.
No, you never want my thoughts.
Not particularly, no. Is that a lot of what we accept in this film has to do with the fact that it is Weird Al.
Right.
And if it wasn't him, we would immediately have branded this as a slacker comedy, which was far more the norm of the kind of 80s and 90s and into the 2000s sort of comedies. And we don't ever necessarily see him as a slacker. He self-describes as a daydreamer, but we don't necessarily see him as a slacker character because I think because of our relationship with him as fans of Weird Al at some point in our youth, that we sort of are rooting for him from the start in a very genuine way.
Like there's certain times where the actor kind of like takes, like you see the actor itself more than the character. Like you see Weird Al in this fucking film, and so when you see Weird Al, like, and you have an understanding of how his mind works based on like what his musical output and like his visuals, like you see that beyond of whatever he doesn't want to do physically, whether he didn't want to do like the fucking burger job and shit, because he's
Right.
daydreaming. It's like, all right, we know like even outside of this film, he probably went through that shit and he beat that shit. Like just like so we never really see it as too much of a hurdle, like because we already know like who Weird Al is as a human being. So like knowing that this is his film's like, all right, yo, he just gonna fucking just think his way out of doing any type of real problem solving. Like he's gonna just come with some whimsical idea. Like nothing is conventional.
It tracks so well with him as just like a general figure too. It's hard to be like, this is George when it's most definitely Weird Al.
Yeah, this isn't fucking like Steve Guttenberg and Police Academy.
No, I mean, the difference is like, because he was already by this point such a omnipresent figure in pop culture,
right?
Multiple hit records, and was sort of just known as the king of these parodies. When he shows up on screen for the first time, it's not the same as, say, Steve Guttenberg's breakout role in Police Academy. It's not like when you watch the first few Adam Sandler movies, like your Billy Madison and Happy Gilmore, right, where you're like, I mean, you knew him from SNL,
yeah,
and he played characters on SNL, but like, it wasn't like you knew him as Adam Sandler. That's sort of the things like, right, Weird Al was just Weird Al, not a character.
Even when it came to Adam Sandler, like the way he was depicted in the sketches on SNL, he was either just playing a very much younger than his actual age character, yeah, or he was like very like just a disjointed kind of off kilter. Even in the like way that Chris Farley was kind of depicted, where a lot of his roles, like he was doing the Belushi shit, where he's like just ripping his clothes, a lot of physical stuff.
Right.
So like it's all based on like how these people are at the time were presented for us to like see, all right, how can they fit in these roles, or what roles are good for them.
Yeah. And we'd spent so long with Weird Al as a pop cultural figure by that point that like, I know the character's name is George, and they say George plenty of times, and I go, oh yeah, that's right, that's George, not Weird Al. That happened to me more often than not.
Yeah.
Like the cast for this movie was dead on what they needed to be. And it's weird. Like, let me throw some names at you that should have been in this film, that like auditioned for this film and didn't get in.
Wait, people auditioned for this film?
Yeah.
I thought so the homies.
Jennifer Tilly.
Wow.
For
Ellen
what part?
DeGeneres.
For what part? Wait.
For his girlfriend?
For his girlfriend. These are the girlfriends.
Jesus.
First of all. For Terry. Jennifer Tilly, Ellen DeGeneres.
Whoa.
Those were just the two for those. The producers.
For the same way.
Sorry, go ahead.
Wait,
yeah, stop.
And Ellen would go for the same role?
Yeah.
And they gave the job, and they gave the role to Victoria Jackson. And the reason was that she was softer demeanored, so it would be more whimsical. That this thing was supposed to be like a weird fever dream the whole time.
I would have preferred Jennifer Tilly just because I would have liked a little bit more edge.
Sure, me too.
Just because his girlfriend really, I feel like we should have got more of her. And the same with his aunt. I feel like we should have got more of both of those ladies in the film. But that's just me.
why was Victoria Jackson in this movie? She'd been on SNL for a few years at that point. She came on, I think, in like 86. And she had been in movies. Like she had played like roles in notable comedies like Baby Boom. And then she had, in 1988, she had co-starred in Casual Sex. She had like an actual real role in that movie. And then she does this film where like there's nothing comedic that's given to her character. She has no jokes at all. She's just there to be a side.
So you would think that a more
presence.
serious, like someone who's not coming from an SNL background would be a better choice.
I think somebody who, I mean, I feel like if there were, I don't know what kind of like improv was allowed in a film like this, because I feel like we're not dealing with sketch or improv people. We're dealing with writers, people who write parody stuff. So it's like, I don't think there was a lot of room for her to do what she would have done well at that point. Not that she was like particularly known for her character work on SNL. She didn't have like, she doesn't have Church Lady, or she doesn't have Pat, or she doesn't have, you know, Dieter from Sprockets. Like she was kind of a good ensemble player, but they don't give her anything here. So it drove me nuts to see her at like kind of the peak of her powers comedically.
Right.
And also being somebody who had a Hollywood movie presence, get nothing out of this.
Did she bounce back from this film? Like what came after this film for Victoria Jackson?
Well, fortunately, she still had a couple more years on SNL, but like after this was not a good series. She did.
I don't think this bombed her though.
No, well,
I think she treated this like a get, because it wasn't easy for SNL to cross over into movies at that point.
But she didn't do an SNL movie like that. Like, so when she left the show, she got like a sitcom that they didn't end up airing. And like, she never found her footing. Like you think about like Ellen Cleghorn never found like a good footing post SNL. People like that, like Piscopo and others who like tried to be movie stars. Others just kind of found other ways. And it's just like Victoria Jackson never had that. And this is, to be perfectly honest, this was like the last movie of note that she did. Yeah. And she still did plenty of movies, don't get me wrong. And she still works to this day. I mean, she's a complete MAGA nut. But like she had like, I mean, the most notable thing that she did really after this, to be perfectly honest, is she was on a short-lived MTV show, or Comedy Central show, sorry, called Strip Mall opposite Julie Brown in like 2000.
Oh, Julie Brown.
Boy, that sounds right up my alley, and I've never heard of this.
I didn't know it existed until I started doing research for this episode, and I said,
"We're pumped."
I would watch that. I don't think it's even on any of the like the apps you can watch it on. I don't think it's like a thing you can even grab anymore.
You know, these aren't even the craziest of the names that I'm going to name.
Please go ahead.
No, I'm just saying, like it's really an interesting list. I like that Fran Drescher batted up. Like she was in for a smaller role, and they liked her so much they put her as the news anchor.
Yeah.
I mean, she was so gifted.
The producers tried to get. Sorry, go ahead.
I was saying she was already such a gifted comedic actress. Like she did Dr. Detroit.
Mm-hmm.
She did This Is Spinal Tap. And she'd even had like small roles in like Saturday Night Fever and American Hot Wax. Like she worked her way up. And this was still before this is before The Nanny, which is like, I think it was like 92. Yeah. Like she worked pretty aggressively in being in these kind of movies. And like she stands out. There's a reason why they ultimately gave her own show.
Totally. She was great.
Absolutely.
The producers tried to get Jerry Seinfeld for the role of George's friend Bob Speck.
What?
But he turned it down. This is my personal favorite.
Seinfeld? Jesus.
Seinfeld. I mean, I'm telling you, like this is a weird film with a lot of weird circumstances around it. They approached Crispin Glover for Philo's role.
Jesus.
But Glover said that he only wanted to play a used car salesman and no other part.
Okay.
Do you mean
to be that specific?
Noted crazy person Crispin Glover did some crazy shit.
Sorry, you're not saying Crispin Glover's full name, are you?
Oh, I'm not. Okay, so I own a record by Crispin Glover, including the smash hit "Clowny Clown Clown," and his artist name, like his stage name for music, is Crispin Hellion Glover.
That is the most I live in the Darkwood Castle RPG name
ever. He nailed it.
His evil witch mother and his evil wizard father. they came together and came up with that genius evil mage name.
I mean, he's really, I mean, honestly, if you read about Crispin, boy, it's a good idea. You should.
Can we go back to Seinfeld for a sec?
Sure.
Because
he turned it down though. So this wasn't like he showed up and they were like, no, we'll go with somebody else.
it took a lot of guts for Seinfeld to turn this down, I think.
Totally.
Because he wasn't a guy you saw on TV or movies before that.
Nope.
Like Seinfeld, the show began in '89, the same year that this movie comes out. So he made a choice not to be in this film, and that's fine. And he chose it for a TV show. But like that first season of Seinfeld, notoriously is a season that almost didn't get re-upped. So like it didn't become the superstar. He wasn't the superstar at that point. Like so for him to be like, you know what, I'm not going to add on to my exciting role as a bit player on an episode of Square Pegs and my 3-episode arc on Benson. In the early 80s.
Another cast member from that very show is prominently featured in the movie.
Well, yes. So
you know what I'm saying? Like, yeah, totally. I'm with you on this.
Yeah, I was a little wary going in when I was just like, okay, so we've got Victoria Jackson, who's known MAGA now.
Yeah.
And Michael Richards, who's forever, regardless of anything he ever does, is going to be known as that guy who lost his shit and revealed some full-blown racism on stage at a fucking comedy club.
Yeah,
that was etched in my mind.
Right.
Etched in my mind. Just stick a fork in him. I was like, wow, this is a and an apology that followed on it was on some late night show. Time I had to apologize on. That was mad weird.
Yeah, it was.
Was it Letterman?
It was Letterman, yeah. He came on the Late Show with Letterman.
It was Letterman.
I think Seinfeld was a guest on the show.
Yes, he kind of facilitated this.
They videoed him in.
On some Farrakhan shit. I was like, all right.
Yeah. Michael Richards in this film, again, as a kid, is the perfect character. In this film, he's this just like ridiculous, like he's so dumb as well. His character is so like fundamentally dumb that like and childlike that it makes. But
it's like innocent like, dumb. It's not like break stuff dumb. Like you know what I mean?
Is
it off color that I say he's like a? Y'all seen Tropic Thunder?
Yeah.
Yes.
It's like a toned down Simple Jack.
Yeah.
It's like a far more tame
exactly right.
Jack.
And that's exactly what Ben Stiller was like parodying with that role was the kind of the comedian playing or the actor playing the mentally challenged person, if we're going to be polite about it. And like there's no point where we go like Michael Richards' character Stanley Spadowski is anyway meant to be anything other than a kind of a one-dimensional joke. There's no explanation of why he is the way he is, that he loves being a janitor. And that also adds to the fact where you go like, well, is this movie exist in the real world or is this a complete fantasy film?
Right.
But like watching this movie as an adult, all I can think about, and certainly why I haven't revisited the Seinfeld episodes that I watched when I was younger and watched in the 90s, is that like I see him now and all I can see is the guy who did that.
The meltdown.
I can't see anything other than the meltdown.
It's tough. Yeah. I'm with you. This role is so good too. I mean, like the weird kids programming that he was doing in the show was excellent.
What was your favorite? What was your favorite show of all the shows?
Oh, of all the shows, I really enjoyed. What was it? It was Town Chat, where he just interviews random people from the town.
Town Chat was cool, like just because he had like this assortment of just weird, evil white people. Where you had like the Klansman, then you had like just the mean mugging little girl who was probably just causing trouble at home, and then you had I'm guessing the street worker. That was cool. I like the pet dude. I thought we were gonna get some type of pet dude was gonna get shut down. I was hoping.
God.
Like I thought we were gonna get some real follow up, but they just kept giving him animals. I'm not like as the channel progresses. Hey, I'm sure like they need more seasons or whatever. But I thought he was gonna get shut down by like somewhere in the movie.
Raoul's Wild Kingdom is
that's the jam.
my favorite of the parodies.
Spatula Land or whatever.
Spatula City.
Spatula City is wonderful too. But
wonderful.
You're right.
But I love Spatula City. We sell spatulas, and that's all. I think that's hysterical.
That's all.
That's hysterical. That's the slogan. We sell spatulas, and that's all. But Raoul's Wild Kingdom is something that I forgot about as a kid. And it's like, it's now burned in my brain. You know, Trinidad Silva, who was a terrific actor who died far too young. He died basically before this movie came out, unfortunately, in 1988.
Yeah.
But he had been in like more serious roles. He'd also been in a lot of comedic things. He'd been in movie Colors, but like he died during the production of the film, which is why they did not get to utilize him as much. But he steals the movie for a period of time when he's like, today we're going to teach poodles how to fly.
Oh my God.
That scene, and just like when they shoot down and you see the outside of the building and you see the pile of basically what looks like animal bodies.
Whenever you bring in like serious actors into a non-serious place, you need to have people that go all in on the concept.
Yes.
That fully sell out to this like ridiculous concept. And then everybody else can like base themselves off of this like feeling, this vibe. He absolutely understood what this movie needed to be. And he threw poodles out of a window. Repeatedly. There's a pile of dead dogs.
Just to see, I enjoy those shots where like you get like the like you're looking upward toward the window and you see him like just chuck his arms out the window. You see the animal flying. I feel like that type of comedy, that was like I don't see that much anymore. Like that type of physical slaps, like, yeah, yo, we're just launching you. We're just chucking this item. It's a doll. And you could tell it's a fucking doll. We don't give a damn. Like you're gonna get the kick out of this.
The film was dedicated to this dude, to Trinidad Silva.
Yeah, well, his death was a tragic death. He was hit by like a drunk driver and killed. Like it's a horrible situation.
They refused to use body doubles and just like cut him from the telethon scenes because he would have had to have been in shots and he died.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
And so they refused to use body doubles and just like dropped it because they just couldn't deal with the fact that he wasn't there.
Yeah.
He was that like central with that little bit of a role. He was that centered in the like making of the film.
I mean, you have to give him credit. Like, I mean, like it's one of those really great jokes that got executed that like other actors who wouldn't necessarily be able to pull off. I don't need no stinking badgers is a line that's been in my head for like 3 decades now because of something he said in that one scene where it's like she gets the shipment and they're like, you've got like 2 aardvarks and a flamingo and some porcupines, armadillos and badgers, and like, badgers? I don't need no stinky badgers. Like it's fucking brilliant. And
that's so Weird Al Yankovic like that. You can almost hear him delivering the line.
Yeah, it's just like it's that. It's like, and the thing is, it's like with that, especially because we watched recently for the pod, we watched Hot to Trot, and that was a very painful watch in a lot of ways. And a lot of it had to do with the fact that like it really played up the racial stereotypes in ways that were quite uncomfortable to watch in retrospect. Right. I have to give it credit. While this movie is less kind to Asians in terms of its jokes, it's still, most of its humor is meant in good nature and delivered with a good nature, even if it is in some ways, you know, wrong for reasons of bias or stereotyping. Like Raul's character is not actually like treated as poorly as say the Latino actors are and characters are in like a movie like Hot to Trot, which came out like the year before. So I give it credit for that. Is like, this is a joke. The joke with him is not that he is Latino and we have to make fun of some aspects for being Latino. The joke is it's like, here is a wild animal show that we're going to parody, and the host is going to be the guy who keeps all these animals in his apartment. That's the joke.
And, you know, to the credit of, this is just Weird Al's thing, is he's not into like, his thing is everybody can be stupid and ridiculous. And all of the characters in this are stupid and ridiculous.
Yeah.
My favorite part of the film isn't my favorite parody in the film. My favorite part of the film is when the the actor credited as the hobo walks up and asks for change, gets $1, and then hands him $1 and walks away. And he's all pumped out that he's gotten change for $1.
Yes, that was the thing.
And nobody even pays attention. They just like kind of keep walking afterwards. They're like, well, we got things to do. It's just incredible. I loved it so much. And just to add to the list of insane names that are linked to this weird movie, there's no way to say it, but to say it, Ginger Baker of the rock band Cream volunteered to audition for the role of the hobo. But Yankovic said no.
Yankovic drew a
Weird
line
Al
at Ginger Baker.
said no because they found a better fitting actor.
It's like there should only be one rock star in this film, and it's me.
I mean, the Stones on this guy, this clown, to just be like, no, we don't need extra attention for the film. This guy's just a great hobo.
Wait, you don't mean Bobo the Clown, do you?
I don't.
No. That's another scene I loved. I loved the Bobo the Clown scene. Just like,
yes.
Now meet Mr. Frying Pan. Just the random violence of that scene. Like he really hits him with a frying pan. His face
after he gets hit with a frying pan, he gets up and he's like, what am I supposed to do here? Am I supposed to keep it together? What am I doing? I want to kill this man. It's really great. What a scene.
What a scene.
The Philo toward the end where he just went off to his planet. Because I felt like the clues were there early on where like this guy just felt very like extraterrestrial, and just to get that payoff at the end, that even though no one else and like none of the other characters acknowledge it, it's just something in the background. He just vanishes back to his planet. That was hilarious.
That's amazing.
I loved it.
And the fact that like they just had their backs turned while he just gets, zoomed up into space is so fucking great. But I think taking out of the context of just the favorite shows and whatnot, my favorite appearance in the film is undoubtedly Emo Phillips, who does the woodworking exercise.
They were like really good friends.
Yeah, I mean, Emo Phillips was,
wrote a part into the movie for Phillips.
And like Emo Phillips was just in that time period, I also was familiar with Emo Phillips because this was somebody who you would see on like a kind of like a stand-up special on HBO half hour or one of those things. Or you would see him. I mean, I wouldn't see him. I wasn't able to stay up, late enough to watch him make an appearance on late night television, but you might catch like a clip or a segment on like a comedy show. And the whole bit between the two of them is just brilliant because you can tell they're friends. You can tell that these are people who are two comedians who actually like know and like each other a lot
and deal in absurdity, like real absurd humor. Yeah.
Are villains in this film like just the Channel 8 guys? They were Channel 8, right?
Man. Yeah.
Yeah. The one son who had like a real clinginess, like with the mommy issues, but for dad. Yeah. That dude kind of got me. I enjoyed him, but I felt like the same way where I felt like about the George and his girlfriend's dynamic. I felt like I wanted more unfolding with like our villain and his relationship with his kids.
Right.
Like I felt like they were like just aside from like the clingy one, the other two were just so interchangeable. Like I don't recall anything significant.
No.
Nothing.
I also love the mobster toughs that they use in the film too. The sort of like it's like not only are they just like a ruthless media empire. Again, they're a local affiliate of a network. Like they're not actually shit. They're just like in this small town. They are minor gods. Like in reality, they are fucking nothing. In what this is like. RJ Fletcher and his son Richard are not anything if you like drive 30 miles outside of the city limits. But the mobster toughs are just amazing because like you wonder what they're doing. Like why are they even here? Like it was so crazy to me see like David Preval in it. Like David Preval, who's like the lead mobster, was like one of the stars of Mean Streets. Like he's like a real deal actor who played gangsters.
As small budget as this was, and as ridiculous as it is, I think that a lot of people were seeing this as an opportunity to get into this sort of airplane-y world, which is taking off at this point.
Yeah.
We're like rude humor and weird video game, or like that video game, shooting like a music video, and all this stuff is like kind of slowly coming into vogue because the MTV generation is getting older.
Like there's the whole like topical humor when it comes to like play on pop culture. I think this is kind of, it's for a lot of people, it's their audition for Saturday Night Live.
100%. This is like, yo, I can do other things. If you land a role in this and you give like 10% and it looks like $1 million, because half of these people, you know, a lot of them aren't actors. Like Yankovic was an actor, but not a leading man. And they even said that when they were making it, they were like, I'm not a leading man, so I didn't really have to like do a lot of stuff. We hired other actors around us to do like the big characters. I was just kind of pushing the plot.
You could at that time become a standout person for a role in a film like this. You know, like we talked about Hot to Trot a moment ago, like Bobcat Goldthwait had done like 3 Police Academy films before they were like, hey, maybe we should give this guy his own movie.
Right.
Like, you could stand out as a character and shine. And I mean, like, this wasn't like Michael Richards's, you know, just to pull somebody out. It wasn't like this was the first thing he'd ever done. You know,
it was written for him in mind because they thought that he would be incredible at, like, he needed more work.
Yeah, like he was somebody who you could see in things, you know, like, I mean, obviously, like the best known thing is like, and I really only became to know this because of when they did the Andy Kaufman movie, Man in the Moon, is that he had been a sketch comic on a show that called Fridays, which had been meant to be sort of like a SNL clone.
Speaking of meltdowns.
Yes, exactly.
Yeah.
Which again, I've read now, like the meltdown of that was like, that's all staged, and like this is all, and that was brilliant, you know. But like he didn't do a ton of stuff. Like it took really until Seinfeld for him to really take off.
I mean, I feel like this movie got him looks.
Yeah,
he was
for sure.
really good in this.
Oh yeah, man, sure, he could have been fucking Ernest.
Totally.
He could have been
great
Ernest.
at that.
Yeah. Oh man, that's what we should do next 420. We should watch Ernest Goes to Camp.
Okay. We need to talk about that.
What?
There's some.
Oh my God. Are you going to bring up some redneck shit?
No. They're like, it, you know, much like all sophomoric movies, there are some red flags. In the Ernest catalog that might.
Really?
Yeah, that might throw you a little further than you think you're going to be.
Ernest P. Worrell.
I mean, listen, I don't want to like do this to everyone right now, but like Ernest Goes to Africa, don't watch Ernest Goes to Africa.
Not that one.
Don't watch that film.
No, I'm a little wary.
You'll be very bummed.
I am definitely worried.
That exists in the canon. I don't remember Ernest Goes to Camp enough to say that something happens, but we just need to be like eyes peeled on that.
It's the Cabbages Podcast Network.